Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm doing an early ownership review of my newly acquired BMW M8 Competition Grand Coupe in Tanzanite metallic blue. This is a 2023 model, low mileage, that I bought pre-owned, and this is really just an early ownership review. I've only owned this car for a couple of weeks, and recently I did a full review of the M850i, so I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail because this car shares a lot of the same features of the car that I recently sold. And my favorite feature, of course, being just the look. It's one of BMW's best looking models in my opinion, and you know, I also think it's one of the best OEM wheels for a sedan out there. So today I'm going to talk about the good and the bad, because there are a couple of things that aren't so great about this car, and I'm going to take it for a drive. I'm going to right away just start off and talk about some of the negatives, because I've already gushed about this car in my previous video, and I'm going to gush about it in a couple of minutes because I absolutely love this car. It's amazing, but everything is not perfect. So the way this car was spec'd, it did not come with exterior carbon fiber package like my M850i did. And I'll be honest, I kind of missed that. So this wing is black. There's no carbon fiber as a part of the diffuser, which my M850i had. Another negative feature, and this was really, again, the way it was spec'd, it does not have adaptive cruise control. And I am a bit bummed by that because I really liked that feature in my M850i. I think that a car of this price point should have it as standard, but it doesn't. Another one, and now I'm just being picky, this is kind of a minor one, but the driver door handle or something in the trim of the driver door sort of creaks a little bit when you open and shut it. It's not super loud, but you can definitely notice it. Now, everything here is rock solid, and when you're on the inside of the car driving, you know, the door is, you know, the interior and the door are as quiet as can be. There are no rattles, nothing of that sort. It's very well built, but one of these trim pieces here creaks, and I don't know why. The final negative thing, and this was an oversight by me, I'll be frankly honest, is if you look at this screen, and I never noticed this until a few days into owning it, there's a little hairline crack right here. Now, part of it doesn't even have any texture, but further towards this end, it does. So yes, there is a crack in this screen. Now, it doesn't interfere with anything. It does not affect any of the functioning of the screen, and it's pretty subtle when you're driving around. You hardly even notice it, which is why I never did. Anyhow, I did take it to BMW to see if they would replace the screen. They said they would, but it would not be covered under warranty, with the explanation that it was damaged somehow. So I did not have any cause to dispute that because I don't know if the prior owner damaged it. I don't have any case against that. He could have, I just don't know. But they did quote me $2,600 to replace that screen. Do I want to spend $2,600 to replace this screen? So is it worth $2,600? You know, that's the question. If anybody wants to comment on that, I'd appreciate any feedback. Now, as far as positives, there are so many, and I won't even get into all of them. I mean, the main positive is going to be in the drive portion and the drivetrain, but you know, it's a beautifully appointed interior. You know, it's got all the usual BMW features, which I've grown used to. You know, the Apple CarPlay works beautifully, and you know, I did get into a review of the M850i in a previous video, which will go into more detail. This has most of the same features. I really love the interior of this car. I love the seats. Just very luxurious. I love the M stripes on the seat belt. That's always a nice touch. The rear seats have a lot of leg space, and again, I got into that in my other video about my M850i. So, you know, nothing to compare about here. Very well built, very solid. You know, does not creak so far, does not make any noise. So in that regard, I'm quite happy. Love the little carbon fiber right here. And then this being a full-blown M car, you've got the M menu where you can configure your two M1 and M2 buttons. I've already done that. I'm still working on what I want to do here. My M1 button is more of a sport, but with a comfortable, well, actually not that comfortable chassis setting. And then, but I still have DSC on. My M2 is the most aggressive, where I have pretty much Sport Plus everything, manually shifting. DSC is on MDM, which is sort of a partially off mode. You potentially can drift a little bit, although I'm not sure how completely, but you know, the car still does save you from going too crazy. Another great feature is that this car has the MX drive, which means you can actually turn this into full rear-wheel drive mode. And of course, you can completely turn off traction control. So if you want to completely go sideways or do donuts on a parking lot, you're free to do that in this car. You've of course got the daytime running lamps and the BMW laser headlights, which are really nice. One other area where this is different from the M850i, which I really appreciate, is the quad exhaust tips, the round exhaust tips. This to me is a must for a sports car. Of course, the best thing about this car is the drivetrain. Not only the twin-turbo V8 X63 engine, which makes 617 horsepower, but also the aggressive transmission and the way this car handles. It's absolutely brilliant. I have not tested it to its limits, but I can tell what it's capable of. So we're going to take this car for a drive. Looks like it just started to rain a little bit, although I think that might just be a passing cloud. But first, let's get a cold start. Now, you can do a normal cold start, or if you want to do an emotional cold start, you have to push one of these M buttons. So we're gonna go ahead and do an emotional cold start. So driving this car in, at this time, full comfort mode, which means I have the transmission set to the least aggressive setting, and you actually have a button here where you can go up and down to from level 1, which is the least aggressive, to 3, which is the most aggressive shift points, so to speak. But I have right now the car in full comfort mode, softest dampening. And one negative right away with this car compared to the M850i is, even in the softest dampened mode, it's still a little bit stiff. You know, you really can feel every bump in the road, and that's unfortunate. Is this a Grand Tourer or is this a sports car? And having owned the M850i Grand Coupe and now this, and in my experience with both, I would say the M850i, I mean, they're both fast, they're both very sporty, but the M850i leans towards being a Grand Tourer, whereas this leans more towards being a sports car, a full-blown sports car. You know, it steers very well. Again, the interior tech features, everything is all fine. The navigator's great. So it's a good daily driver, although it doesn't get the best gas mileage with that twin turbo V8, plus the way I drive it is another factor. So I do a lot of my driving in comfort mode, particularly when I am just driving to work, and it does the job just fine. But when you shift it into sport mode, everything tightens up. The steering, the suspension, the engine, and then it just destroys the curves. The brakes are very responsive. And I do not have this in rear-wheel drive mode. I'm not trying to get into an accident or anything, but this is one of my favorite windy back roads, with the exception of these railroad tracks. It shifts just ferociously. And it's at this point, when you're driving it like this, that you really appreciate this car. Turns and stops on a dime. Turning radius is one other negative about this car, because unlike the M850i, it does not have rear axle steer, but that helps with weight savings. You also need to hear how this car sounds from the outside. All right, I think I abused my car enough today. Of course, this car is an M Division car with motorsport in its DNA, so I think it can handle it. But it's also my daily driver, and I try not to abuse my daily driver too much. Anyhow, I'm gonna give some of my final initial impressions with this car, and I am gonna make more videos with this car, and at some point I'll make more of a long-term ownership review type of video. But at least for now, I'm very pleased with this car. In fact, I'm still in that honeymoon period with it, you could say. Not everything is perfectly rosy. While it is a beautiful and luxurious car, it's not as luxurious in some ways as the car that it replaced. It doesn't have some of the carbon fiber features that I like. It doesn't have adaptive cruise control, and the ride is just a little bit stiff. But on the flip side, it's an all-out sports car as far as I'm concerned. It's a ballistic missile. It's crazy fast. I mean, bonkers fast. And it handles brilliantly. The steering feedback for an electronic steering car is good. And I feel like I can perform any maneuver I want to perform in this car. So that's kind of nice. You have a lot of confidence. That's pretty much it. So I look forward to making more content. Once again, I appreciate everybody watching, and I'll see you next time.